All right, folks, today we're going to go over the exterior pre-trip with you. This is the exterior on a Class A. This is the Modernized pre-trip. We're going to go over that with you now. This is how we do it here at Elite CDL. It will get you passed at the DMV, get you that CDL so you can start making money. All right, let's go. All right, so on the first thing that we're going to do is up here on the front. This is on the exterior. We've just checked our lights. We've done our in-cab and our brake tests. Now we're out here on the exterior. All right, so the first thing we're going to overview the leaning of the truck. Make sure it's not leaning left or right, front or back. If it was, that would indicate there's some sort of spring damage or low tire or load shifted. This looks good, there's no leaning. So the next thing that we're going to check, we're going to look underneath, make sure there's no puddles. If there were a puddle, we would know that there's a leak of some sort. There's fluid there, whether that be oil, coolant, whatever that is, we would want to check that out. Now that we've done that overview, next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our lights. We're going to look at our headlights. We're going to make sure that our lenses, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're the proper color for the headlights, that's clear. On our blinkers, our indicators, those should be orange. They are. Neither of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. They're properly mounted and secured. Once we hit our headlights, we want to look at our marker lights up top. Those are the proper color, which is amber. None of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. They're properly mounted and secured. Once we do those, we're going to step to the side here on this trailer. We're going to look at our marker lights on the top of our trailer for our clearance. Those are not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they are the proper color. Same thing on this side. We're going to step over here and ensure that those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're the proper color, and they look like they're working properly. All right, so once you've done that, now we're going to go under the hood and begin our under the hood check. All right, so under the hood, when we go under the hood here on the modernized version, here are the things that I want to check. First, I want to check our 3 fluids. Then I want to check our overview of our hoses, such as our air hoses, any fuel lines, any oil lines, anything like that. We're going to look to see if we got any leaks going on. Our third thing that we're going to check our steering system. Once we've checked our steering system, we're going to go to our suspension system. Once we're done with the suspension, we're going to go to our brakes and our tires. That's kind of how this under the hood's going to work. So the first thing on our 3 fluids on this particular truck is on the other side. We're going to go over there and we're going to check out our first fluid on the other side. All right, so under the hood on the passenger side on this particular truck, the only thing that we have is our coolant. Over here, our coolant, we want to check out the reservoir. We want to make sure that the reservoir itself is not cracked, it's not damaged, it's not loose, it's not leaking. Also, we want to check the fill level, make sure that it's at the proper level, which is between full and minimum. It is. Also, we want to check the cap, make sure it's in place, it's not cracked, it's not damaged, it's not loose, and it's present. We also want to check our hose. We'll make sure there's no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. And we also want to make sure that the clamps are well seated and those are not broken or leaking on either end here. All right, now that we've started our fluids on that side, we've got the passenger side knocked out. We're over here on the drive side. The next thing I'm going to be checking, I've already got my first fluid. My second fluid is my engine oil. I want to look at it. The dipstick, I want to make sure it's in good working order. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose, or leaking. Then I would need to check my oil. To check the oil, I would pull my dipstick out. I would wipe it clean. I would reinsert it, pull out again, and get a good reading. It should be between add and minimum. And I would reinsert it, making sure that it was at the proper operating level. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to look at my oil fill tube. I'll make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. The cap is intact. The cap itself is not cracked, damaged, or loose, and it is in place. Now, if I had checked that and I needed oil, this is where I would add oil. All right, so now I've checked my second fluid. My third fluid is my power steering fluid. I want to check the reservoir, make sure that it's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking anywhere. I'm going to check the level, make sure that it's between add and full. It is. Then I'm going to check my hoses coming to and from. There are no abrasion, bumps, or cuts there. They look good, they're not leaking. My cap is here, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, and it's properly working. Then from there, I'm going to do an overview of my hoses. My air hoses up here, you can see a lot of those. I want to check them over. I'm listening for any leaks. I'm looking to see if there's any abrasion, bumps, or cuts, anything that's cracked, damaged, or loose. From there, I'm also looking at any hoses in my engine area that would be leaking fluid, such as fuel or oil. Also looking underneath the truck, because this is a good place to look, see if there's any puddles or any signs of leakage. Once I've looked everything over, all that looks good. I've hit my fluids. I've hit an overview of my hoses. Now I'm going to go to my steering system. First thing on our steering system is our steering shaft. Want to make sure that it's not cracked, it's not damaged, it's not loose. Want to make sure it has no excessive play. It can't have more than 10 degrees of play. This is good. You don't have to touch it on the test, but I am touching it to show you. So once we've checked the steering shaft, that brings us down to our steering gearbox. I'm going to check my steering gearbox, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's properly mounted and secured to the frame. I'm also checking those bolts, making sure I don't see any signs of looseness, such as shiny threads or any rust. Once I've checked out my gearbox, that's going to bring me over to my three-piece steering system. My three-piece steering system, it's all good working order, no cracks, damage, or loose. It's secured with castle nuts and cotter pins. Once I've checked that out, I'm going to go to my suspension system. My suspension leaf springs, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. None of them are missing, and none of them are shifted. Now I'm going to look at each end where it's suspended. My spring hangers, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. Same thing on the back there. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose, and it's working properly. Now where my springs are held to my axle, these U-bolts, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're in good working order. They're secured over the bump stop. The bump stop is not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not overly worn. Now I'm going to go to my shock absorber. My shock absorber, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose or leaking. Because it has hydraulic fluid, it can leak. So I want to make sure that it's not leaking. It's properly mounted and secured on the top and the bottom. That looks good. Now we're done with our suspension. We're going to go to our brakes. My brake line, there's no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. There's no leaks, and it's supplying air to our brakes. My ABS line, it's not no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. It's not broken in any fashion, and it's working properly. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go to my brake itself. My brake shoes, they are not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they have at least a 1/4 inch of pad. My brake drum, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, no illegal welds, and it's in good working order. I'm also looking to make sure there's no contaminants either on the drum or the brake pads. Make sure that you mention contaminants such as oil, dirt, or grease. That can hinder your stopping ability, and you want to make sure that you mention that on your test. All right. Once you have done the brakes, we're going to check this tire out. Our tire, we want to check our sidewalls out on both sides. There are no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. There are no gouges from hitting curbs. Then we want to check the top of the tire. The top of the tire should be evenly worn. You know, it should be, tread depth should all be at least 4/32 of tread depth on the steer tire. Anything from the drive tires back can be 2/32 and up. But on the steer tire, we need to make sure that it's 4/32 here. And that needs to be in all groups. And we would check that with a tire depth gauge. Once we've checked that out, then we want to confirm that these are a matching set of tires on the front. They need to be the same size, same wear. They need to be a matching set. Once we've done that, we're going to check our seal from our tire to our rim. Make sure that it has a good seal, it's not leaking. Then we want to check our rim. Our rim itself needs to not be cracked, damaged, or loose anywhere. No illegal welds. We need to check our lug nuts. Make sure that none of those are loose. How would we tell? It would be a shiny threads showing up here, or there would be rust trails coming from the lug nuts that would start showing up when you drive. We don't see any signs of looseness, and all of our lug nuts are present. We don't see any missing. Also, our valve stem, make sure that we check it. It needs to not be cracked, damaged, or loose. It needs to be accessible. Our cap needs to be on. Our tire pressure needs to be at least 100 psi, or to manufacturer's specifications, which will be listed here. And how you would check that tire pressure, you need to mention that you would check it with a tire gauge. We don't check it by bumping it. You'd have to actually use a gauge and mention that to your examiner. Once you've done that, that covers all of our under the hood section. Now we're going to move on to behind the truck. All right, now that we're done under the hood and the tires, now our next thing we're going to check is our traffic monitoring devices. This we're going to be checking to make sure that the mirror is not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no illegal stickers. There's no obstruction. I want to make sure that it's clean and clear. You don't want any mud or dirt on there. I want to make sure that it's mounted correctly. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Properly mounted to our door. Once we've checked that, I'm going to go down here. Here's our battery box. We need to check it out at the test. We don't have to open this up. Now on your particular vehicle, do make sure you open it up, check it out, and check your batteries, your cables, so on and so forth. But the DMV, when you take your test, you do not have to open it, but you have to be able to articulate what you would check. On our battery box, we'd make sure that it's properly mounted and secured. We would check our batteries, make sure none of those are cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. We would also check all of our connections, make sure they're all secure. None of those wires are frayed or burnt. There's no corrosions on the battery post. All of those are tight with no corrosion. Once we're done with our battery box, that brings us to our DEF fluid. Here you can see the cap. I want to make sure the cap is not cracked, damaged, or loose, and the cap is intact. Now we can't see our tank back there, but if we had x-ray vision or if we were to pull this panel off, we would check back there. We'd check the tank itself, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, that it's properly secured to the frame. It has some tank straps that's strapping it to the frame. You want to mention that those are in proper working order. Once you've done that, we're going to come back here to the fuel tank. All right, now that we've checked the side of our truck, we've checked our battery box, our mirrors, and we've checked our DEF fluid, that brings us around here to our fuel tank. Our fuel tank, we want to check our cap, make sure that it's in place, it's not leaking, it's properly mounted, secure, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Also, you want to make sure you don't have to open this up on your test day, but we want to make sure that that T-chain is in place. That's your safety chain to keep you from losing your cap. Make sure it's in place, and that rubber seal, want to make sure it has no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. It's in good working order and does a good seal. Lock that back down. Also, we have our fuel lines back here. Those fuel lines, they need to not be leaking, no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, and they need to be properly supplying fuel. Our fuel tank itself should not be cracked, damaged, or loose. Don't see any leaks. Our tank straps, you want to check those. Make sure they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're properly securing the tank to the truck. All right, now that we've done our fuel tank, that brings us to our connections for our trailer. First, we want to check our electrical, make sure that it's properly connected. We want to check and make sure we have the safety catch holding our electrical in. You do not have to unplug this at the DMV, but I'm going to unplug it here. You want to check your connections, make sure you're not missing any pins, make sure there's no corrosion, no contaminants in there. We'll plug that back in, make sure that that safety catch holds that so that don't come undone. Now we're going to check our air lines on the tractor side. Your red is for your emergency line. It's not leaking, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Our service line, which is blue, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not leaking. I don't see any signs of leakage or hear any leaks. Then as we come across, we want to make sure that our lines are properly suspended. They're not dragging the catwalk. While we're looking at that, make sure your catwalk is clean and clear of any debris. And then we're going to check this end of the electrical line. Same thing as we done that. We'll pull it, check those pins, make sure they're not missing, they're not broken. None of those have any corrosion or contaminants that would block it. Safety catch is in place. our glad hands. These are called your glad hands on this side because of how they connect. You want to make sure that those are connected. You want to make sure that the rubber as well has a good seat on it. That way it's not leaking. If these were cracked or damaged, you would need to replace those parts. But in this case, they look good. We also want to look for anything such as wasp nest or dirt or whatever inside these lines. Make sure that that's good. Make sure that your connection connects well, seated well. You don't hear any leaks. You don't see any signs of leaks, such as crack, damage, or loose. Then we're going to check our emergency side on the trailer side. Same thing. Check our seals there. Make sure those are good. We don't see the glad hand that's cracked, damaged, or loose. We don't see any signs of leaks here. Our hoses in general across, we want to look, make sure that none of those have any abrasion bumps or cuts. Our electrical line, no abrasion bumps or cuts, and it's not dragging the catwalk. This is a good opportunity on your truck to check your frame. So we're going to look at our frame, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, no illegal welds. I don't see any damage that would cause any harm here. All right, now that we've made it back to our trailer, we're going to be checking our reflective tape, DOT reflective tape. The law states it needs to cover at least 50% of the length of the trailer. As you can see, we have that covered more than sufficiently. All right, now that we've got our reflective tape, we want to go under here and check our connections. Specifically on our trailer, we want to look at our apron, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. We don't see any damage that would hinder the connection of the trailer here or the floor of the trailer. But now we want to look at our connection here, the fifth wheel. We want to make sure the fifth wheel is not cracked, damaged, or loose. It shows no sign of wear or broken anywhere. We want to check and make sure there's no gap between the fifth wheel and the trailer. Gap would indicate a high hitch or not properly connected. Also, you want to check your lubricant. Make sure it's properly greased and lubricated for turns and so on. Then we want to check the mounting of the fifth wheel. Make sure the mounting is proper. Our bolts here, they all look tight. They don't look like they're loose, such as shiny threads or rust, and none of them are missing. It's all properly connected to the fifth wheel. Then we want to check our locking jaws. This handle controls our locking jaws. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not bent, it's not broken, and since we have a trailer connected, it is in the lock position. Now this particular fifth wheel is not a sliding fifth wheel. It's adjustable because it has different holes, but this is a bolted down fifth wheel, so it's properly seated to the frame. If it was a sliding fifth wheel, you would need to check and make sure that the sliding fifth wheel was locked in, it was latched, and that the rails itself were clean and clear of any debris, and the air line going to it was not cracked, damaged, or loose, properly supplying air to the fifth wheel slide. From there, we're going to step back here. All right, now that we're back here, we kind of got a view of this. We're going to be looking up into our fifth wheel. Make sure the kingpin that's on the trailer is not bent, not broken, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. And we make sure that it's the locking jaws on the fifth wheel are seated around the kingpin well. And we want to make sure the locking jaws are properly lubricated and they're, like I said, seated well around the kingpin. From there, that's going to bring us back here to our landing gear. We want to make sure that our landing gear has proper clearance between the landing gear and the tractor so that we can make turns and it not affect or tear anything up. Once we check the clearance, we're going to check the landing gear itself. We're going to look at the cross members, make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're not bent or broken in any way. We're going to check our landing pads, make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. Make sure there's no debris on them that would potentially cause damage to someone else or just be a nuisance in general. Then we're going to take a look at our crank handle. We want to make sure that it's properly stowed. We want to make sure that it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, functions properly. And we want to make sure that it has our landing gear in the fully raised position for traveling. All right, any side markers or indicators, make sure that you check those out. What we're checking for is make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, and that it's proper color, and that it's working properly. This one looks good. All right, now we're going to check. You need to check your trailer frame. On this particular trailer, the only frame that we have is here. Our frame is not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not bent or broken. And we're going to take a look at the floor. Make sure the floor of the trailer, we don't see any damage to the floor. Once we've checked that out, you need to check your ABS light. Make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Now, the only time this light comes on is when you turn the key in there. The ABS light indicator should pop on in there, and it should turn back off if it's working properly. At the same time, this will operate. If that light stays on, that means you have a problem with your ABS and you need to get it checked out. All right, now back here on the back of the trailer, we're going to need to check our lights. Make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose, both sides, and they're the proper color. Then we want to look at our marker lights, make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose, properly mounted and secured. And that's it. All right, folks, that is your exterior check of your pre-trip. Now remember, crack, damage, loose, leaking. If it can leak, mention leaking. Other than that, your acronym CDL, crack, damage, loose, and then anything rubber, ABC, abrasion, bumps, cuts, that'll help you. Also, you can throw in there PMS, properly mounted and secured. That'll help you with other things as well, such as your mirrors, make sure those are properly mounted and secured. So, correct color on your lights. All these little things will help you in your brain factory there, trying to get all these words crammed into you. Those acronyms come in very, very handy. It's a thorough check on each part. So keep those things in mind. You have a process to it, have a flow to it. It'll help you tremendously. If you have any questions, ask us here at Elite CDL. We're glad to help you. Just reach out to us any which way you want. And that's how we do it. Also, pro tip, grab you a stick or something, because the FMCSA mentions that you have to point or touch each item. And if the examiner ain't paying attention, you can tap on it. But this will get you past that student driver portion and get you your CDL. Let's go.